The graduation that should have been mine, the champagne glass, slipped from Chen Yao's hand. When she saw me standing outside the ballroom, it shattered against the marble floor. For one brief second, the smile disappeared from her face. Behind her, a 3-story golden banner hung across the luxury hotel ballroom. Congratulations to Chen Yao, Huaxia University's outstanding graduate. Hundreds of guests applauded beneath crystal chandeliers. Professors, investors, journalists, and government officials surrounded her like stars orbiting the moon. On the enormous screen behind the stage was a photograph of Chen Yao wearing a black graduation gown. She held a diploma in one hand and a trophy in the other. That diploma should have carried my name. That future should have belonged to me. I stood in the service corridor, wearing a faded hotel cleaner's uniform, my hands still wet from scrubbing grease off banquet plates. 8 years ago, I had scored 692 points on the Gaokao. I had ranked first in our entire city. Huaxia University had admitted me into its prestigious law program with a full scholarship, but I never received my admission letter. 3 days before the enrollment deadline, someone submitted an application in my name declaring that I had voluntarily abandoned my place. My student file disappeared. My examination records were flagged for suspected fraud. By the time I realized what had happened, Huaxia University had already accepted another student under a corrected identity record. That student was Chen Yao, my best friend, the girl who had slept beside me the night before the Gaokao, the girl who had held my hand while I cried outside the county admissions office, the girl who told me that perhaps I had remembered my score incorrectly. My mother spent every yuan we had trying to investigate the case. She sold our apartment. She borrowed money from relatives. She worked 2 jobs until her heart failed. She died believing that her daughter had somehow ruined her own future. I never recovered. For 8 years, I washed dishes, cleaned hotel rooms, and delivered food to students younger than me. Meanwhile, Chen Yao lived the life that had been built from my score. And tonight, fate had finally placed us in the same room. Lin Xiao. Chen Yao's voice trembled. She quickly recovered and stepped into the corridor, blocking the ballroom entrance behind her. Her silk gown shimmered beneath the lights. Diamonds glittered around her throat. She looked exactly like the person she had always wanted the world to believe she was. Elegant, brilliant, untouchable. "You work here?" she asked. Her eyes moved slowly over my uniform. A trace of satisfaction appeared beneath her carefully manufactured sympathy. "I heard your mother passed away," she continued softly. "I'm sorry. Life really can be unfair." For years, I had imagined this moment. I had imagined screaming, hitting her, begging her to tell me the truth. But now that she was standing in front of me, I felt strangely calm. "I found something in your private lounge," I said. Her smile stiffened. I reached into the pocket of my uniform and pulled out a yellowed envelope. The Huaxia University seal was still visible in the corner. My name was printed across the front. Lin Qiao. Chen Yao's face went white. I had found it inside a locked leather box while cleaning the VIP suite. My original admission letter. She had kept it for 8 years. Not because she needed it, because it was a trophy. "You stole it," I whispered. Chen Yao glanced toward the ballroom before grabbing my wrist. "Lower your voice. You stole my admission letter. Give it to me." My score was 692. "You scored 511. Lin Xiao, you took my student file. You forged my withdrawal application. You used my admission record." Her nails dug into my skin. "You don't understand what happened. Then explain it." Footsteps sounded behind her. Zhou Kai stepped into the corridor. He wore an expensive dark suit and a silver watch that probably cost more than everything I owned. He had been my boyfriend in high school. 2 days after my admission disappeared, he broke up with me. A month later, he began dating Chen Yao. Now they were engaged. When Zhou Kai saw the envelope in my hand, he stopped walking. That single reaction told me everything. "You knew," I said. He looked away. "You both knew." "Lin Xiao, listen to me," Zhou Kai said. "This happened a long time ago. Making a scene won't change anything. My mother died because of this. No one forced your mother to work herself to death." The words left Chen Yao's mouth before she could stop them. The corridor became silent. I looked at the woman wearing my future. For the first time, her mask had completely fallen away. "You never deserved that place," she said coldly. "You were poor. You had no connections. Even if you entered Huaxia University, you would have embarrassed everyone around you. My mother had the money to turn your score into something useful. You should be grateful. Grateful. You would have wasted the opportunity." I began laughing. It sounded strange even to me. Chen Yao's eyes narrowed. "Give me the letter." She reached for it. I stepped backward. Behind me was the door to the emergency stairwell. "Stay away from me." Zhou Kai moved forward. "Stop being dramatic." He grabbed my arm. I tried to pull away. Chen Yao snatched the envelope from my hand. The old paper tore down the center. Something inside me broke. With it, I lunged for the letter. Deska shovme. My heel missed the first stair. For a moment, I was weightless. Then my body struck the concrete steps. Once. Twice. Again. Pain exploded through my skull. I landed at the bottom of the stairwell, with blood spreading beneath my head. Above me, Chen Yao stared down in horror. Zhou Kai gripped the railing. "We need to call an ambulance," he whispered. No, Chen Yao's voice was sharp. "She threatened us. She fell. Do you understand? She fell by herself." My vision began to darken. Chen Yao came down the stairs slowly. She crouched beside me and pulled the torn admission letter from beneath my fingers. "You should have stayed invisible." "Lin Xiao." Those were the last words I heard. Then everything disappeared. A phone alarm screamed beside my ear. I opened my eyes. My lungs dragged in a violent breath. I sat up so quickly that the room spun around me. My hands flew to the back of my head. No blood, no broken bone, no freezing concrete beneath my body. Instead, I felt a thin summer blanket wrapped around my legs. Morning sunlight entered through blue curtains. A stack of Gaokao practice papers sat on my desk. My old school uniform hung from the wardrobe door. I stared at the room. This was impossible. This was my bedroom. The bedroom my mother had sold 8 years ago. "Chow chow." My mother's voice came from the kitchen. "Your score will be released at 10. Come eat something first." My entire body froze. I reached for the phone beside my bed. The date glowed on the screen. June 25th. 8 years earlier. The day the Gaokao results were released. My hands began to shake. I stumbled out of bed and ran toward the kitchen. My mother, Lin Mai, stood beside the stove frying eggs. Her hair was tied in a loose ponytail. There were no deep exhaustion lines around her eyes. No hospital bracelet around her wrist. No grayness in her face. She was alive. "Mom!" My voice broke. She turned around. "What happened?" I crossed the kitchen and wrapped my arms around her. The spatula nearly fell from her hand. "Chow chow." I buried my face against her shoulder. Her familiar scent of soap and cooking oil filled my lungs. She laughed nervously and patted my back. "Are you that worried about your score?" I closed my eyes. In my previous life, my mother had died apologizing to me. She believed she had failed because she could not afford a better lawyer. But she had never failed me. I had failed to protect her. Not this time. This time, I would protect both of us. At exactly 10 o'clock, I entered my examination number into the official website. The page loaded. Total score, 692 city ranking. One, my mother screamed. She covered her mouth with both hands. Tears filled her eyes. "First place." She read the number again. Then again. "My daughter is first in the city." She hugged me, laughing and crying at the same time. My phone began ringing. Teachers, classmates, relatives, who had ignored us for years. Then a message appeared from Chen Yao. "Bestie, what did you get? I'm too scared to check mine. Can I come over?" I stared at the message. In my past life, I had immediately sent her a screenshot. She had arrived 20 minutes later. With milk tea and flowers, she had congratulated me. She had cried. With me. Then, while I was showering, she photographed my examination number, identification card, and application password. That information became the first key used to steal my future. A slow smile appeared on my face. My mother noticed. "What is it?" "Nothing." I typed my reply. "I haven't checked yet. The website keeps crashing." "Come over. Whenever you want." Chen Yao answered. Within seconds, I'm already on my way. Of course she was. This time, I would open the door for her. This time, I would let her walk inside. And this time, every step she took would lead directly into the grave she had dug for me. My best friend came to celebrate. Chen Yao arrived carrying 2 cups of milk tea and a bouquet of sunflowers. She threw her arms around me the moment I opened the door. Chow chow! Her perfume filled my nose. In my previous life, that scent had represented safety. Now it smelled like poison. You must have done amazingly, she said, gripping my shoulders. You were always first in every mock exam. I still haven't been able to enter the website. I lowered my eyes and forced disappointment into my voice. The server keeps rejecting my examination number. A tiny spark appeared in Chen Yao's eyes. It vanished so quickly that my mother would never have noticed. But I had spent 8 years remembering this woman. I knew every mask she wore. That's terrible, she said. Maybe you entered something incorrectly. Probably. Let me help. She placed the flowers on the table and immediately reached for my phone. I pulled it back. My mother said we should wait until the school calls. Chen Yao laughed. Why wait? I know your password. My mother looked at her in surprise. You know Xiao Xiao's examination password? We filled out our applications together. Chen Yao answered smoothly. That was a lie. She knew it, because she had watched me enter it once. My mother smiled, unaware. You girls really share everything. Yes, I said quietly. Almost everything. Chen Yao looked at me. I smiled. She smiled back. For the next half hour, I pretended to refresh the website while she moved around my bedroom. Her gaze repeatedly drifted toward the clear folder on my desk. Inside were photocopies of my identification card, application form, and examination certificate. I had placed them there deliberately. Chow chow, she said eventually. Your mother is calling you. From the kitchen. My mother shouted that lunch was ready. I stood. Coming. Chen Yao picked up one of the milk teas. Take this. With you. No thanks. I'll drink it later. Her fingers tightened around the cup. In my previous life, the milk tea had contained sleeping medication. I had felt dizzy. After drinking it, by the time I woke up, Chen Yao had already photographed every document in my room. This time, I carried the cup into the kitchen and poured it down the sink while my mother's back was turned. Then I filled the container with water and returned to the bedroom. Chen Yao was sitting exactly where I had left her. The folder on my desk looked untouched, but the corner of one paper was no longer aligned. She had already photographed everything. Did the school call? She asked. Not yet. I yawned. Her eyes brightened. Are you tired? A little. You studied so hard for so long. You should rest. She guided me toward the bed like a caring sister. I'll keep refreshing the website for you. Would you? Of course. I lay down and closed my eyes. Beneath my pillow, my old phone was recording. I slowed my breathing. 2 minutes passed. Then I heard her stand. A drawer opened. Paper shifted. She returned to the folder. Through a narrow gap between my eyelashes, I saw her photograph each document. My examination number, my national identification number, my signature, my university application list. Then she opened my laptop. She inserted a small flash drive. My heart began pounding. In my previous life, I had never known she copied my browser data. During this visit, now I watched the progress bar reflected in her glasses. She was stealing saved passwords. When the transfer finished, she removed the drive and placed everything exactly where she had found it. Then she sat beside my bed. Chow chow. I remained still. She leaned closer to make sure I was asleep. Her expression changed. The gentle concern disappeared. Contempt twisted her lips. First in the city, she whispered. You really think someone like you deserves that? My fingernails dug into my palm beneath the blanket. She took out her phone and sent a voice message. I got the information. A pause. Yes, all of it. No, she doesn't know her score yet. Tell Mom to contact Director Wu today. My blood turned cold. Director Wu. Wu Jiansheng was the deputy director of our county admissions office. In my previous life, my mother and I had begged him to investigate my missing records. He had looked through the documents and told us there was no evidence of wrongdoing. He had already been part of it. Chen Yao continued speaking. Once the admission result is released, we'll change the contact number first. Then we intercept the letter. If she misses online confirmation, the place can be reassigned. She laughed softly. Don't worry. Lin Xiao trusts me more than she trusts herself. I kept my eyes closed. Every word traveled directly into the recording phone. When Chen Yao finally left, I locked the front door. My mother found me standing in the living room. Did Yao Yao go home? Yes. She's such a good friend. I looked toward the closed door. No, Mom. She isn't. My mother's smile faded. I took the phone from beneath my pillow and played the recording. As Chen Yao's voice filled the room, the color slowly disappeared from my mother's face. When it ended, she sat down heavily. She wants to steal your admission. She did it once already. The words escaped before I could stop them. My mother stared at me. What do you mean? I could not tell her I had watched her die in another lifetime. Not yet. I knelt beside her and took her hands. I had a dream, a very long dream. In it, we trusted her, and we lost everything. My mother searched my face. Perhaps she thought I was frightened. Perhaps she thought the pressure of the Gaokao had damaged me. But she heard the recording. That was enough. What do we do? She whispered. I looked toward my bedroom. We let her continue. My mother's eyes widened. We already have evidence. Not enough. She can claim she was joking. She can claim the voice recording was edited. She can say she only wanted to help me check my result. I picked up the milk teacup. We need her to steal something real. We need Director Wu to change the records. We need her mother to pay him. And we need all of them to believe they have succeeded. My mother looked terrified. I squeezed her hand. Trust me. This time, we are not the victims. We are the witnesses. I enrolled. Before the letter arrived the next morning, I took a train to the provincial capital. My mother came. With me, I carried every original document in a red folder strapped beneath my jacket. We went directly to the Huaxia University admissions office. The waiting hall was crowded, with students and parents asking questions. At the front desk, a young staff member asked us to take a number. I need to report an attempted theft of an admission identity. I said. Her expression changed. 20 minutes later, we were sitting inside the office of Professor Sun Wei, the deputy dean responsible for undergraduate admissions. I showed him the recording. I showed him the copied browser history. I showed him the milk teacup, which I had sealed in a plastic bag. Then I explained what I believed Chen Yao's family intended to do. Professor Sun listened, without interrupting. When the recording reached the name Director Wu, his face hardened. This is an extremely serious accusation. I know. Your admission result has not officially been released, but the university has already received my score. Professor Sun opened the internal system. He entered my examination number. My file appeared on the screen. Lin Xiao. Gaokao score, 692. Provisional admission, Huaxia University School of Law. My mother began crying again. Professor Sun looked at me. Your admission is almost certain. Can I complete my identity verification now? Normally, students verify after the formal notice is issued. Normally, students are not targeted by an admissions official. He remained silent. I placed my identification card on his desk. Verify my face. Take my fingerprints. Record my voice. Seal my student profile so no contact information can be changed. Without an in-person biometric check, I don't care how many forms I need to sign. I will sign all of them. Professor Sun studied me for several seconds. You are very calm for an 18-year-old. I cannot afford to be careless. He contacted the university's legal department. For the next 4 hours, my mother and I moved from office to office. I completed an early identity verification. The university photographed me. They recorded my fingerprints. They added a security phrase to my account. No withdrawal request would be accepted unless I appeared in person, and spoke that phrase. No telephone number or mailing address could be changed. Without verification from Professor Sun's office, I also completed the preliminary online enrollment process. My place was secured. The physical admission letter was now ceremonial. Chen Yao did not know that. Before we left, Professor Sun handed me a sealed envelope. It looked exactly like a normal Huaxia University admission package. but the serial number was registered as a controlled evidence document. If anyone attempts to use this at enrollment, the system will alert campus security, he explained. Inside the envelope was a letter bearing my name. The QR code would open a legitimate-looking verification page, but only from the outside. The moment it was scanned by an official university terminal, the screen would display, "Document reported as stolen. Contact security." Professor Sun looked at me sternly. "You are not to place yourself in danger. I won't. Report everything to the police. We will." My mother held the envelope as though it were a bomb. On the train home, she looked at me repeatedly. "Are you sure about this?" No, it was the truth. I was not sure. I was furious. I was terrified. And somewhere beneath those emotions was the memory of my mother lying in a hospital bed, apologizing. Because she could not save me, I would never allow that future to exist again. When we returned home, I placed the controlled envelope inside the top drawer of my desk. Then I installed 2 small cameras. One faced the drawer, the other faced the bedroom door. My mother installed a 3rd camera near the mailbox outside. We uploaded every recording automatically to cloud storage. Then I called Qinyao. She answered immediately. "Qiao Qiao, did you finally check your score?" "I got 692. Silence. Only for half a second. Then she screamed, with excitement. "I knew it! You're the city champion. I'm so proud of you. Washe University will definitely accept you." "I hope so. When will the admission letter arrive?" "The school said it should arrive next week." I let my voice tremble. "My mother works during the day, and I'm worried someone might take it from our mailbox." Qinyao was quiet. Then she spoke, with perfect gentleness. "Why don't you have it delivered to school? The teachers can keep it safe." Exactly what she had suggested in my previous life. "That's a good idea," I said. "I knew I could trust you." The letter disappeared 3 days later. My online admission status became official. Washe University School of Law. Full scholarship. The news spread across the city. Reporters came to our small apartment. The school hung a red banner across the front gate. "Congratulations to Lin Xiao." City Gaokao champion principal Zhao smiled for photographs beside me. Director Wu from the county admissions office gave a speech about fairness and educational opportunity. Chen Yao stood in the crowd clapping louder than anyone. Her own score was 511. It was enough for an ordinary university. It was not enough for the life she believed she deserved. After the ceremony, she hugged me in front of the cameras. "No matter where we go, we'll always be best friends." I smiled into the lenses. "Always." That evening, she sent me a screenshot. It appeared to show the delivery status of my admission letter. Recipient address updated. Qinghe No. 1 High School Administrative Office. "Did you change this?" I asked. When she called. "I helped you," she said cheerfully. "My aunt knows someone in the postal office. It's safer at school." The screenshot was real. Director Wu had changed the delivery address, without my authorization. Professor Sun confirmed it through the admissions system audit log. The police now had evidence of illegal access, but we still waited. The letter arrived at school 2 days later. Principal Zhao placed it inside his locked office safe. At least, that was what he told my mother. That night, at 8:17, the school camera near the administration building mysteriously stopped working. At 8:24, Chen Yao entered the building through a side door. At 8:31, Director Wu arrived. At 8:38, Principal Zhao opened his office safe. They did not know that Professor Sun's legal team had installed a miniature tracker inside the controlled envelope. They also did not know I was sitting with 2 police officers in an unmarked car across the street. My mother gripped my hand. On the tracking screen, the red dot moved from the principal's office to the parking lot. Then it entered Chen Yao's mother's car. The car belonged to Gaolan. She owned 3 tutoring centers and served as vice president of the local parents' association. In my previous life, she had stood beside us at the admissions office and promised to help investigate. Now I watched her drive away with my stolen letter. Officer Liu turned to me. "We have enough to arrest them for theft." "Not yet." My mother looked at me sharply. "Qiao Qiao, we need the forged withdrawal form. We need the payment. And we need them to try to use the letter." Officer Liu frowned. You understand that continuing the investigation carries risk. I understand. Why are you so certain they will attempt more? Because they had done it before. Because the letter alone is useless. I answered. To take my place, they need to change the official record. Officer Liu looked toward the red dot moving across the map. We continue surveillance. The next morning, Qinyao came to my house. Her face was pale. Xiao Qiao. Something terrible happened. What? Your admission letter is missing. I froze perfectly. What do you mean? Principal, Zhao checked the safe this morning. It's gone. I let the glass in my hand slip onto the table. Water spread across the surface. No, I'm so sorry. Qinyao wrapped her arms around me. Over her shoulder, I saw my mother standing in the kitchen doorway. Her face was rigid, with rage. I began shaking. Not because I was afraid, because I remembered this exact embrace. In my previous life, Qinyao had held me the same way. She had stroked my hair. While I sobbed, she had whispered that everything would be all right, while my future sat inside her mother's house. How could this happen? I whispered. I don't know. What should I do? You should contact the admissions office. She pulled away. But the deadline is close. If they think you lost the letter, they might question whether you're responsible enough to attend. I stared at her. What do you suggest? Qinyao hesitated. My mother knows Director Wu. He might help you submit a temporary withdrawal. A withdrawal? Only until everything is investigated. Then you can reapply next year. She squeezed my hands. It may be the safest option. I lowered my head. A tear rolled down my cheek. Qinyao believed it was genuine despair. It was not. It was grief for the girl I had once been. The girl who had believed every word. I need time to think. I said. Of course. After she left, I wiped my face. My mother slammed the kitchen door shut. How did I ever think she was a good child? She practiced. What happens now? I picked up my phone. Professor Sun had sent a message. Withdrawal request has been received. Signature appears forged. We are preserving it as evidence. Attached was a scanned document. My name had been signed at the bottom. The handwriting was almost perfect, but beneath the signature was a fingerprint, Qinyao fingerprint. Because the ink pad she had used contained an invisible chemical marker supplied by the police through the documents they had allowed Director Wu to access. The trap was closing. She announced my future as hers a week later. Qinyao held a celebration banquet. The invitation spread through every class group. Congratulations to Qinyao on her special admission to Huaxia University. Students were confused. Her score was nowhere near the university's cutoff, but Gao Lan announced that an administrative error had occurred during the Gaokao registration process. According to her story, Qinyao and I had accidentally received each other's candidate numbers. The score of 692 had supposedly belonged to Qinyao all along. My score was allegedly 511. Director Wu signed an official correction statement. Principal Zhao approved it. Local reporters were invited to the banquet. The same teachers, who had praised me days earlier, now avoided my eyes. Rumors spread online. People called me a fraud. They accused me of stealing Qinyao score. Some said my mother had bribed a teacher. Others said I had hacked the examination website. Our front door was covered with insulting messages. My mother wanted to respond. I stopped her. Let them talk. They're destroying your reputation. Only temporarily. At the banquet, Qinyao appeared in a white dress. She stood beneath a banner bearing the Huaxia University crest. Zhou Kai stood beside her. He had been avoiding me since the results were released. Now I understood why. He had already chosen the winning side, or at least the side he believed would win. Qinyao spoke to the reporters, with tears in her eyes. When I learned that my score had been mistakenly assigned to someone else, I was devastated. But Lin Xiao has been my closest friend for years. I don't blame her. She may not have known the truth. Her generosity impressed everyone. Comments flooded the live stream. Qinyao is too kind. Lin Xiao should apologize. Imagine stealing your best friend's score. Then I entered the banquet hall. The room became silent. I wore a simple blue dress. My mother walked beside me. Officer Liu and two investigators waited outside. Qinyao stared at us. For a moment, panic crossed her face. Then she smiled. Xiao Qiao, I didn't know you were coming. You invited the entire graduating class. I assumed that included me. Gao Lan stepped between us. This is a private family celebration. I only came to ask one question. I looked directly at Chen Yao. Did you receive a Huaxia University admission letter? Every camera turned toward her. Chen Yao lifted her chin. Yes. With whose name? She paused. Mine. Can we see it? Gao Lan Laoget? This is ridiculous. Lin Xiao is emotionally unstable. After learning the truth, please remove her. Several security guards approached. I raised my voice. Chen Yao, show them the letter. The reporters moved closer. Chen Yao could not refuse. Without appearing suspicious, she looked at her mother. Gao Lan gave a small nod. Chen Yao reached into a red gift box on the stage. She removed the controlled evidence envelope. My envelope. My name had been carefully erased. Her name had been printed over it. The serial number remained unchanged. Cameras zoomed in. Chen Yao held the letter against her chest. This is proof that Huaxia University admitted me. I smiled. No, it is proof that you stole from me. Her expression hardened. You're still lying. I have the official correction document. Director Wu confirmed the score belongs to me. Director Wu stood near the stage. He stepped forward. As deputy director of the county admissions office, I can confirm that an administrative error occurred. The corrected candidate record is valid. I turned to him. Did you personally change the record? Yes. Did you change the mailing address of my admission letter? He hesitated. It was changed at the student's request. I never requested it. You signed the form. Do you have the form? Gao Lan interrupted. This is not a courtroom. No, I said, but it is being live-streamed. I looked toward the cameras, which is even better. Then I took out my phone. On the screen was a live video from the Huaxia University admissions office. Professor Sun stood behind a desk. With university security and provincial education officials, the banquet hall erupted in whispers. Professor Sun spoke through the video connection. Miss Chen Yao, please hold the admission letter closer to the camera. Chen Yao stepped backward. Gao Lan grabbed her arm. Do it. Chen Yao raised the letter. Professor Sun read the serial number. HXU 2047-1138. He typed it into the system. A red warning appeared on the screen behind him. Controlled document. Reported stolen. The entire ballroom fell silent. Professor Sun continued. That document was issued to Lin Xiao after she reported an attempted theft. It was never valid for Chen Yao. Lin Xiao completed biometric verification and online enrollment 9 days ago. Her position at Huaxia University has never been withdrawn. Chen Yao's face lost all color. That's impossible. I have the correction record. The correction was unauthorized. Professor Sun displayed the system audit. Director Wu Jianxing accessed Lin Xiao's file 11 times from an unregistered terminal. He altered her telephone number, address, and candidate identity. The university immediately reversed those changes. Director Wu began moving toward the exit. The ballroom doors opened. Officer Liu entered, with several police officers. No one leaves. Gasps swept through the room. Chen Yao gripped the letter. She gave this to me. She said I could use it. I widened my eyes. Why would I give you my admission letter? Because you knew the score was mine. Then why did you enter Principal Zhao's office at 8:24 last Thursday? Chen Yao froze. A video began playing on the ballroom screen. The footage showed her entering the school administration building. Then Director Wu. Then Principal Zhao. Another video showed Principal Zhao opening the safe and handing her the envelope. A third recording showed Chen Yao inside her mother's car. Her voice was clear. We got it. Lin Xiao won't realize until the deadline passes. Gao Lan's voice answered. Once Director Wu files the withdrawal, the place will be yours. The crowd exploded. Reporters shouted questions. Principal Zhao staggered backward. Director Wu ran toward a side door. 2 officers stopped him. Chen Yao shook her head violently. No, this is edited. She created it. She set me up. Officer Liu walked onto the stage. Miss Chen Yao, give me the document. She clutched it tighter. It's mine. You just claimed Lin Xiao gave it to you. You also claimed your name was printed on the original letter. It was. Then why does the university's serial number identify it as stolen evidence? Chen Yao's breathing became frantic. Zhou Kai quietly stepped away from her. She saw him. Gui, tell them. Tell them Lin Xiao is going to withdraw. Zhou Kai stared at the floor. She grabbed his sleeve. You helped me practice her signature. A stunned silence spread across the ballroom. Zhou Kai's head snapped up. Chen Yao realized what she had said. Too late. Officer Lu turned toward him. You helped forge the signature? No. Zhou Kai pulled his arm free. She's lying. Chen Yao screamed. You held the paper. Well, I pressed my fingerprint. You said your uncle's lawyer checked it. You said once she lost Huaxia University, she would have nothing. Every word was being broadcast live. Every camera captured it. Zhou Kai looked around the ballroom. His face collapsed. You idiot, he whispered. Officer Lu took out handcuffs. Chen Yao, you are under arrest on suspicion of theft, identity fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to interfere with national examination records. The metallic click echoed through the microphone. Her wrists were pulled behind her back. No. She struggled against the officers. My score is 692. I earned Huaxia University. Professor Sun's voice came from the screen. Your verified score is 511. The words struck harder than a slap. Chen Yao stopped moving. Her face twisted. Then she looked at me. You knew. I said nothing. You knew from the beginning. I met her eyes. Yes. You let me take the letter. Yes. You planned this. No, I stepped closer. You planned it. I simply made sure everyone could see. Her mother tried to buy my silence. Gao Lan was not arrested at the banquet. She had been careful. The recordings proved she knew about the theft. But her lawyer argued that the conversation had been misunderstood. She claimed she believed the letter belonged to her daughter. She claimed Director Wu had deceived her. She claimed Chen Yao acted alone. For 3 days, she gave interviews describing herself as a devastated mother. Then she asked to meet me. The meeting took place in Principal Zhao's office. Principal Zhao had been suspended, but the school board had not yet removed him. He sat behind his desk, sweating beneath the air conditioner. Gao Lan sat beside a lawyer. A black briefcase rested on the table. My mother and I entered together. Gao Lan looked at my mother first. Lin Mai, we have known each other for years. My mother's expression was cold. You knew my daughter for years. That didn't stop you from trying to destroy her. Gao Lan sighed. Emotions are high. Mistakes were made. I almost laughed. Stealing an admission letter is a mistake. Forging a withdrawal is a mistake. Changing a national examination record is a mistake. Her lawyer leaned forward. No one is admitting criminal liability. Then why are we here? Gao Lan opened the briefcase. Bundles of cash filled the inside. My mother inhaled sharply. 2 million yuan. Gao Lan said, it is more money than your family will earn in a lifetime. In exchange, Lin Xiao will state that she gave Chen Yao permission to collect the admission letter. She will also say that the recording from the car was taken out of context. Principal Zhao cleared his throat. This would protect the school's reputation. And Lin Xiao's future. My future is already protected, I said. Gao Lan's expression changed. Is it? Huaxia University can withdraw an admission at any time. Your mother still works in a grocery store. You live in a building scheduled for demolition. Court cases last years. Lawyers cost money. She pushed the briefcase toward us. Take the practical choice. In my previous life, my mother had spent years begging for money. 2 million yuan could have saved her life. It could have purchased a home. It could have erased every debt. For one moment, I looked at the cash and felt the shadow of my old desperation. Then my mother closed the briefcase. My daughter's future is not for sale. Gao Lan smiled, without warmth. Everyone has a price. Not everyone. I placed my phone on the table. The recording application was visible. Gao Lan's lawyer stood immediately. This meeting is over. It is. I picked up the phone. The police are waiting outside. The color drained from Principal Zhao's face. The office door opened. Officer Lu entered. With 2 investigators. Gao Lan rose. You recorded a private settlement discussion. You offered money in exchange for false testimony. I offered compensation. You threatened my university admission. I explained the consequences. Officer Lu approached her. Gao Lan, we have also obtained Director Wu's financial records. He received 600,000 yuan from a company controlled by you. Gao Lan's composure finally cracked. That payment was for consulting. Director Wu confessed this morning. She stopped breathing. He provided the bank transfer documents, messages, and forged candidate correction files. He claims you organized the entire plan. Gao Lan looked toward her lawyer. The lawyer closed his briefcase. I advise my client not to speak. Officer Liu removed a pair of handcuffs. Gao Lan turned toward me. You think you have one? Her voice was low and venomous. My husband will destroy you. Your mother will lose her job. No school will want a student surrounded by scandal. You are still poor. You are still nothing. I smiled. In my previous life, those words would have frightened me. She frowned. Previous life? I stepped aside as the officers took her arms. This time, they only make you predictable. The boy who chose her Zhou disappeared from school. After the banquet, his parents hired a lawyer and claimed he had been manipulated by Chen Yao. He sent me 37 messages. I ignored all of them. Then, he waited outside my apartment. It was raining. He stood beneath the broken entrance light, holding an umbrella. When I approached, he stepped into my path. Lin Xiao, move! I need to explain. No, Chen Yao lied to me. I looked at him. He appeared exhausted. His hair was wet. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. In my previous life, I had begged this boy not to leave me. I had believed that losing him was another punishment for failing the Gaokao. Now I saw him clearly. He had never loved anyone more than he loved comfort. When did she lie? I asked. When she asked you to photograph my identification card? When she asked you to help copy my signature? Or when she promised her mother would pay for your overseas master's degree? His mouth opened. How do you know about that? I took out my phone. A recording began playing. It was Zhou Kai's voice. Once Lin Xiao's record is corrected, she'll be treated as a fraud. No university will accept her. Then she'll depend on me. I can pretend to comfort her until the investigation ends. When Chen Yao enters Huaxia University, I'll break up with Lin Xiao permanently. The recording had come from Chen Yao's phone. After her arrest, police extracted thousands of messages. Zhou Kai's face became gray. You don't understand. I was trying to protect you. I laughed. By helping them steal my future, I didn't think it would go this far. You knew exactly how far it would go. I was 17. You were 18. I made a mistake. You made a choice. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. Lin Xiao, I really did care about you. Chen Yao's family pressured me. They said they could ruin my father's business. Did they pressure you to date her? He became silent. Did they pressure you to laugh when she called my mother a supermarket cashier? Did they pressure you to say I would become dependent on you? The rain struck the umbrella between us. Zhou Kai lowered his voice. What do you want me to do? Tell the truth. If I testify, I'll lose everything. That is not my problem. My university offer could be cancelled. You helped steal mine. He stared at me. For the first time, he understood that the girl who had once loved him no longer existed. His face twisted. You set all of us up. No, I walked past him. You simply never imagined I would stop protecting you from the consequences of your own actions. 2 weeks later, Zhou Kai accepted a plea agreement. He testified against Chen Yao, Gao Lan, Director Wu, and Principal Zhao. In exchange, he avoided prison, but his university revoked his admission. His father's company fired him from the family business to protect its reputation. Our classmates stopped answering his calls. He lost the future he had sold me for. The difference was that no one had stolen it. He had thrown it away himself. Chen Yao begged me to save her. The trial began 3 months later. The courtroom was crowded with reporters. The admission scandal had spread across the country. News programs discussed corruption in examination systems. Parents demanded audits. Several officials connected to Director Wu were investigated. Principal Zhao admitted that Gao Lan had financed a new school gym in exchange for access to student records. Director Wu admitted changing my contact details and creating the false correction order. Gao Lan continued denying everything. Chen Yao cried through most of the proceedings. She wore a plain gray coat. Her expensive curls were gone. Her face looked smaller. Without makeup, When the prosecutor displayed the photograph of her holding my stolen admission letter at the banquet, she covered her eyes. The judge sentenced Director Wu to 8 years in prison for corruption, falsification of public records, and interference with national examination data. Principal Zhao received 5 years. Gao Lan received 9 years for bribery, conspiracy, identity fraud, and witness tampering. Her tutoring centers were closed. Her accounts were frozen. Her family's properties were seized to pay fines and victim compensation. Chen Yao was 19 by the time judgment was delivered. She received 3 years in prison, suspended because of her age and cooperation, but the punishment that destroyed her was not prison. Her examination score was permanently flagged. Every university withdrew its offer. She was banned from participating in national scholarship programs. Her fraud conviction became part of her academic record. When the judge finished reading the sentence, Chen Yao collapsed. No, she gripped the edge of the defense table. I can retake the Gaokao. The judge looked at her. You may retake the examination after the statutory restriction period, but any institution will be informed of your conviction. No top university will accept me. That is a consequence you should have considered before attempting to steal another student's identity. Chen Yao began sobbing. After the hearing, officers led her past the public gallery. She stopped. When she reached me, Lin Xiao. I looked up. Her eyes were swollen. Her lips trembled. I'm sorry. My mother stiffened beside me. Chen Yao leaned closer. I know I was wrong. My mother pushed me. She kept saying you didn't deserve a score. She said your family could never use the opportunity properly. I was jealous. I admit it. Please speak to Huaxia University. Tell them you forgive me. Tell them to remove the fraud flag. In my previous life, I had knelt outside Director Wu's office. I had begged Chen Yao to help me prove my score. She had looked down at me and said, perhaps some people are simply not meant for university. Now she stood before me with the same desperation I had once felt. Do you remember what you told me when my admission disappeared? I asked. Her face tightened. I said many things. You said some people were not meant for university. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I was cruel. Yes. I was stupid. Yes. I've lost everything. No, I shook my head. You still have your life. My mother died in my previous. I stopped. Chen Yao stared at me. I continued more quietly. My mother nearly died. Because of what you did. You did not only steal a letter. You tried to steal every year that came. After it, she reached for my hand. I pulled away. Please. I forgive you. Hope appeared in her face. Then I finished. But forgiveness does not erase evidence. It does not restore trust. And it does not protect you from consequences. Her hope vanished. I stood. Live the life you earned. Chen Yao. I walked away, without looking back. They came for my mother for a while. I believed it was over. I moved to the capital. With my mother, Huaxia University provided us with an apartment near campus. My full scholarship covered tuition and living expenses. My mother found a less exhausting job at the university library. Every morning, I walked beneath rows of golden trees toward the law school. I studied criminal law, evidence, and public administration. I wanted to understand every rule that had failed us. I wanted to make sure those rules would protect the next student. But Gao Lan's husband had not been arrested. Chen Guoqiang was a wealthy property developer. He had remained silent throughout the trial. He publicly divorced Gao Lan. He claimed he knew nothing about her crimes. Then, during my second year at university, my mother disappeared. She had left the library at 6 in the evening. At 7, she stopped answering her phone. At 7:30, I received a photograph. My mother sat inside an empty warehouse. Her hands were tied. A man stood behind her. Beneath the photograph was a message. Withdraw your civil lawsuit against the Chen family. My blood turned cold. The civil lawsuit sought compensation for the attempted theft of my future and the years of legal harassment. If successful, Chen Guoqiang would lose several properties. He had decided money mattered more than his freedom. In my previous life, I would have panicked. I would have followed every instruction. But I was no longer the girl who faced danger alone. I contacted Professor Sunday. then the police, then the legal clinic, where I worked. I did not reply to the message until investigators had traced the number. I will sign anything. Tell me where to go. A location arrived, an abandoned printing factory outside the city. The police ordered me not to enter. I agreed. Then I placed the phone in my pocket and drove to the location under police surveillance. The factory windows were broken. Rainwater dripped through the roof. Chen Guoqiang waited inside beside my mother. He held a metal pipe. A lawyer's document lay on a table. Sign it, he said. My mother shook her head frantically. Don't. Chow chow. He struck the table. With the pipe. The sound echoed through the warehouse. Your daughter destroyed my family. My wife is in prison. My daughter is a criminal. My company lost 3 contracts. You did that yourselves, I said. His face darkened. You think you're powerful. Because a few professors protect you. You are still the daughter of a supermarket worker. You are still poor. You can still disappear. He pushed the document toward me. It stated that I had fabricated evidence against Gaolan. It withdrew the civil lawsuit. It also transferred all compensation rights to Chen Guoqiang's company. I picked up the pen. He smiled. Good girl. I looked at my mother. She was crying. Then I looked back at him. Do you know why I chose this factory? His smile faded. You chose it. The number that contacted me used a temporary tower near the Eastern Industrial District. There were only 4 abandoned buildings within range. This factory has 2 entrances. The northern entrance is wide enough for police vehicles. Chen Guoqiang's eyes widened. I dropped the pen. And you have been standing beneath a surveillance drone for the past 6 minutes. A red laser appeared on his chest. Police! A voice thundered outside. Drop the weapon! Chen Guoqiang grabbed my mother. He pulled her in front of him. The metal pipe pressed against her throat. I will kill her! No, I said. You won't. You don't know what I'll do. I know exactly what you'll do. That was why, before entering, I had sent my mother a phrase through the hidden speaker in her hearing aid. When I said the word exactly, she dropped her weight. Chen Guoqiang lost his balance. I kicked the pipe from his hand. Police crashed through both entrances. They threw him to the floor. My mother crawled toward me. I wrapped my arms around her. Behind us, handcuffs closed around Chen Guoqiang's wrists. He twisted his head toward me. You trapped me. I held my mother tighter. You kidnapped her. You brought the trap with you. This time, my mother watched me graduate Chen Guoqiang receive 14 years in prison for kidnapping, extortion, and retaliation against a witness. Our civil lawsuit succeeded. A court awarded my mother and me enough compensation to purchase a home and establish an education fraud assistance fund. We named it the Lin Mei Foundation. My mother protested. It should carry your name. No. Ismilat. You are the reason I survived both lives. She did not understand the final 2 words. Perhaps she never would. For years. After I first entered Huaxia University, I stood backstage wearing a dark blue graduation gown. A gold cord rested across my shoulders. My name was announced. Lin Xiao. Highest honors. School of Law. Applause filled the auditorium. I walked across the stage. Professor Sun handed me my diploma. You protected your own admission, he said quietly. Now go protect someone else's. I looked toward the audience. My mother stood in the front row. She wore a pale green dress. Her hair was neatly styled. Her face was healthy. She held a bouquet of sunflowers, the same flowers Chun Yao had carried into our apartment on the day she tried to steal my score. But they no longer belonged to that memory. My mother lifted them above her head and waved. I smiled. After the ceremony, we walked across the university courtyard. Students took photographs beneath the trees. Parents carried flowers and gifts. My phone vibrated. A former classmate had sent me a photograph. Chun Yao stood behind the counter of a small convenience store in our hometown. She wore a red uniform. Her hair was tied back. Her shoulders sagged with exhaustion. The message beneath it read, she retook the Gaokao twice. No university would accept her. After the fraud conviction, Zhou Kai moved south and works for his uncle now. They never spoke again. I stared at the photograph. In my previous life, I had worn that same exhaustion. I had believed the universe had chosen her over me, but the universe had chosen nothing. People had made choices, Chinyao chose envy. Okai chose convenience. Gao Lan chose corruption. Director Wu chose money. Principal Zhao chose status. And I had once chosen trust. Without caution. This time, I chose differently. I deleted the photograph. Then I blocked the sender. Who was it? My mother asked. No one important. I slipped my phone into my pocket. At the university gate, a group of reporters waited for me. The examination scandal had inspired new national regulations. Any alteration to a student's admissions profile now required biometric verification. Withdrawal applications required video confirmation. Changes made by local officials were automatically reported to universities. And students. The system had been named the Lin Protocol. A reporter raised her microphone. Ms. Lin, you will begin working with the National Education Integrity Office next month. What do you hope to accomplish? I looked back at the university behind me. 8 years ago, in another lifetime, I had died believing this place had been stolen from me forever. Now the diploma rested in my hands. My mother stood beside me. My future stretched ahead. I want every student to understand one thing. I said, an admission letter is only paper. A score is only a number. But the future behind them belongs to the person who earned it. No family, official, school, or friend has the right to steal that future. The reporter asked another question. Do you regret setting the trap for Chinyao? I thought about the controlled envelope, the hidden cameras, the banquet, the handcuffs, the courtroom. No, I answered calmly. I did not force her to steal the letter. I only gave her the opportunity to reveal who she had always been. My mother linked her arm through mine. We walked away from the cameras. Sunlight spread across the stone path ahead of us. In my previous life, Chinyao had stolen my admission letter. She believed that by holding a piece of paper, she could become me. She never understood that my future had not been created by the university seal. It had been created by every night I studied, while she slept, every problem I solved, every sacrifice my mother made, every time I stood up. After being pushed down, she stole the envelope. She forged the signature. She changed the record, but she could never steal the person who had earned the score. And this time, before she even touched my admission letter, I had already enrolled. My name was already protected. My evidence was already stored. My future was already mine. All Chinyao stole was the bait, and all she received in return was the life she had chosen for herself. Story 2. The rain hammered me awake, not the soft, lingering drizzle of a spring shower. This was someone taking a sledgehammer and pounding on a coffin lid. One blow after another. I opened my eyes and saw that crack in the ceiling. It twisted from the top left corner, crooked and jagged, crawling past the light bulb, taking a turn, then burrowing toward the bottom right. I stared at that crack. All the blood in my body surged to my skull. I had stared at that crack for 10 years. 10 years later, this room would belong to Chinu. I'd be moved to a corner of the living room, my wheelchair wedged between the coffee table and the wall, staring at another crack in the ceiling. Every single day, I sat up abruptly as the blanket slid off. I looked down and saw my legs, 2 legs. My toes could move, my knees could bend. I gripped the bedsheet hard, my knuckles turning white, my teeth clenched together. A muffled sound forced its way out of my throat. I couldn't tell if it was a sob or a laugh. Lightning split the sky outside the window, washing the entire room in a ghastly white. There was a poster on the wall, Jay Chow's November's chop pan, the bottom right corner peeling up held on, with tape that had fallen off and been reapplied. 2014, July 19th. The night the river levee broke. Asterisk bank 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 asterisk. Someone pounded on the door from outside, making the frame vibrate. With a dull hum, Shia opened the door. My father's voice. His throat was raw, cutting through the rain and wind. The water's rising. Come out and help me get Shou out. He twisted his ankle. He can't walk. Chinu, the only son of our neighbor. Chindishing. Their house was on lower ground. By evening, water had already flooded their yard. Chindishing had brought his wife and kid over to our place. My mom had gone to the town clinic that afternoon to stay with the patient, so she wasn't home. My father didn't hesitate. He let them in last life. I opened that door. My father grabbed Chinyu, hoisted him onto his shoulder, and shouted back at me, "Stay close!" Then he charged into the waist-deep water. I followed behind. The current made it impossible to stand steady. My feet slipped on the ground. I called out to him, "Dad! Dad!" Once, twice, 3 times. By the 7th call, the water was already at my chest. By the 11th, the ground gave way beneath my feet. 17 times. I counted later. I called him 17 times in total. He didn't look back even once. The flood swept me out of the house. The back of my head slammed into a stone pillar at the alley's entrance. My 3rd vertebrae shattered. When I woke up, my father stood by the hospital bed. Mud still caked on his clothes. Chinu was curled up in a military coat on a chair nearby, completely unharmed. I couldn't speak. My body was full of tubes. Only my eyes could move. My father looked down at me. Just one look. The first words out of his mouth weren't, "Are you okay?" or "Dad's here." He said, "Why are you so clueless? Couldn't you have run faster?" Comma. Asterisk. Bang 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 asterisk. The door rattled again. "Ho Yayan, are you deaf? Open the door." I pulled my gaze away from the crack in the ceiling. My bare feet touched the floor. The cement was ice cold, the chills shooting up from my cells, straight to the top of my head. I could feel the pressure of my toes against the ground. I could feel every bone, every tendon responding. In my last life, after that rainy night, I never felt this again. "Xia Yan, if you don't come out, shall you?" I walked to the door. My hand rested on the lock. Lightning flashed again. White light pierced through the curtain's gaps, nailing my shadow to the door panel. My hand paused on the lock for 3 seconds. Then I turned it. The bolt clicked into place. Locked. Xian. I turned around and walked to the old wardrobe against the wall. Solid wood left by my grandmother. Heavy as death. I bent down, pressed my shoulder against the wardrobe side, planted my feet, and pushed it inch by inch toward the door. The legs scraped across the cement floor. The screeching sound drowned out the rain. "What are you doing? Zoyen! Open the door." My father started kicking the door once. Twice. Dust from the frame showered down. The wardrobe was wedged tight against the door. I stepped back, caught my breath, so I covered my forehead. "Joan. Chin. You can't walk. Come out and lend a hand." I didn't answer. I pushed open the window. The night wind hit my face, rain soaking me. I climbed onto the sill, leaned out, and dug my fingertips into the drainage pipe on the outer wall. The pipe was rusted, the edges cut into my palm. A warm trickle ran down my wrist. I gripped the pipe tight, braced my feet against the wall's crevices, and climbed up section by section. Rain pounded my back. My clothes clung to my skin. The cold made my teeth chatter. In my last life, I'd soaked in the flood for 40 minutes, but was far colder. That cold seeped out from the marrow of my bones. By the time they fished me out, the lower half of my body had no feeling left. I rolled onto the roof, lying flat on the wet cement surface, gasping for air. I looked down. The water in the yard had already risen past the knees. Muddy currents swept branches and debris through the alley. Across the way, Chen Singlestory house was just a roof peeking above the water. I heard my father curse downstairs, then the sound of the door being forced open. Not my room's door, but the living room's. He gave up. He went to find Chinyu. A flashlight beam flickered twice in the rain curtain. My father carried Chinyu on his back, stumbling through the deep water toward the high ground at the alley's mouth. Chindishing appeared from somewhere, took his son, and the two of them staggered off into the rain. The water kept rising. It reached the first-floor windows. I sat on the roof. Rain filled my ears. I couldn't hear anything clearly anymore. I just sat there sad until the sky began to lighten. The water receded a bit from the windows down to the doorstep. A figure appeared at the alley's entrance. It was my father. He was covered in mud. His hair was plastered to his forehead. His pant legs were rolled up to his thighs. He stood in the yard, looking up at me on the roof. I looked down at him. He climbed up fast, using both hands and feet, the nimble efficiency of a man who'd worked manual labor for 20 years. The instant I flipped onto the roof, he reached out and slapped me. The slap landed square on my left cheek. My head snapped to the side a full 90 degrees. My ears rang with a single dull hum. The corner of my mouth tasted salty. You locked the door. You locked the door. His finger jabbed right into the tip of my nose. The crevices of his nails were caked with mud. Chinu's leg almost got ruined. You know that I carried him out alone. Barely made it. He was shouting. His lips were pale, and his eyes were bloodshot, every vein standing out. How could you be so selfish? He's just a kid. His ankle was twisted. He couldn't walk. And you just stood there on the roof watching these words. I knew them too well. In my past life, lying in a hospital bed, the tone was almost identical, the phrasing nearly the same. The only difference was, in that life, I was in a wheelchair. In this one, I was standing. I used the tip of my tongue to lick away the blood at the corner of my mouth. I didn't respond to him. Instead, I lowered my head and looked down at my own 2 feet, barefoot, standing on the wet cement roof. My toes curled, one by one, gripping the surface, then slowly relaxed. All there. All there. Chapter 2. The rainstorm lasted for 3 days. On the 4th, it cleared. The town government organized disaster relief. A big truck loaded, with bottled water and instant noodles, pulled up at the village entrance, and a loudspeaker kept repeating, "Line up orderly for distribution." The first floor of my house had been flooded for over 40 hours. The sofa was ruined. The TV had water damage. Most of the wall plaster had peeled off, and the whole place rire of rancid mud. I was squatting in the yard, using a shovel to scrape away the muck. My mom came back from the town. She walked into the yard in a hurry. First, she saw me. Her lips moved, but she didn't say anything. Then, she turned and headed into the house. As she passed me, she reached out and touched the back of my head. Her fingers were cold. They smelled of disinfectant. That was the only time she touched me in those 2 days. Because every minute, after that, she was busy taking care of Chinu. Chinu's ankle was sprained, swollen like a puffy steamed bun. Chindishan squatted next to him, slapping his thigh and saying, "Heya!" China's mom was crying, her nose running. My mom tore up the cotton sheets from my bed, ripping them into strips to wrap around Chinu's foot. My dad stood at the doorway, arms crossed, smoking one cigarette after another. Every passerby had to praise him. "Young Veo, you're a real brother carrying someone else's kid out in the middle of the night. That's something. Risking your life like that. That's what a real man does." He would say, "It's only right. It's only right," and stand, with his back ramrod straight. No one asked me how I got onto the roof that night. No one asked me where the slap mark on my face came from. On the 5th day, the temporary arrangement came. Chandashing's house was completely destroyed. Half the wall had collapsed. Uninhabitable. My dad patted his chest and said to Shandashing, "Oh, El Chin, you guys stay at our place for now. We'll figure it out once the house is fixed." Chandashing rubbed his hands together and exchanged a few polite words. Then my mom pushed open the door to my room and started moving my things out. "Xiao's foot is hurt. Your room has a bed, so let him stay there for a few days. You move into the storage room first." I leaned against the door frame, watching her carry out my pillow, my notebooks, my desk lamp, one by one in my past life. That few days lasted 10 years. Chinu moved into my room and never left. I was shoved into that 2-square-meter storage room at the turn of the staircase. Above my head, a drain pipe dripped water all night, landing on my face. Later, when my wheelchair couldn't fit through that narrow door, I was moved to the corner of the living room. Not in this life. I picked up the desk lamp that slipped from my mom's arms and casually placed it into the storage room at the end of the hallway. 2 square meters, a folding cot, a dripping drain pipe. My mom stood behind me and called out, "Shia." Her voice was soft. The end of it lifted and then dropped, leaving everything unsaid. I turned back to look at her. Her gaze flickered to the side. "It's fine," I said. "I'm good here." Where I stayed didn't matter. What mattered was that my legs were still there. What mattered was that I knew what was going to happen in the next 10 years. That night, I lay on the folding cot in the storage room, listening to the sounds of Chinu playing games in the next room. He was using my phone, speaker on full blast. I closed my eyes. The memories of my past life flipped through frame by frame. Spring 2015. the UJ new district plan was announced. The low-lying land to the east was designated as commercial use. The owner of that land was Old Man Wu, 73 years old, who had guarded 5 acres of wasteland his whole life. After the flood, he was eager to sell 8,000 yuan per acre, but no one took it. Spring 2016. The land price multiplied 20 times. End of 2016. Buin Real Estate moved in, and the whole area was demolished. Old Man was got compensation of 1.600000 yuan. I opened my eyes, staring at the dripping drain pipe above my head. The water gathered enough weight. Plop! It fell, landing right on my forehead. The next morning, before dawn, I left the house. The town's building, supply stores, and hardware shops were all hiring temporary workers. Post-disaster reconstruction. Everywhere was short-handed, carrying bricks on a day, hauling cement, 100 a day, clearing mud, 120 a day. No one wanted to do it. The smell was too bad. I took off my shoes, stepped barefoot into the ankle-deep sledge, bent over, and started digging. With a shovel. Scoop after scoop. I worked for a week and earned 700 yuan. My palms had 4 blisters. 2 had burst. The shovel handle was sticky, with blood and mud. The second week, I went to the construction site, moving rebar, pouring concrete, laying bricks. The foreman saw how skinny I was and told me to get lost. I squatted at the entrance and didn't leave. By noon, someone didn't show up for work. The foreman kicked me and said, "Get up there." Every night, when I came home, Chinu was lying on my bed playing on my phone, his feet propped up on the pillow, his ankles still wrapped in a bandage. The injury had long healed. He walked, without even a limp. My dad sat in the living room watching TV. When he saw me walk in, he snorted through his nose. "So you finally know how to work." A month later, clutching 1.900 yuan, I found Old Man Wu's house. He was sitting in front of his half-collapsed courtyard wall, smoking a pipe. His eyes were full of suspicion. When he looked at me, "What was a half-grown kid doing here?" "Grandpa Wu, that plot of yours, are you selling it?" Old Man Wu took the pipe out of his mouth and lifted his eyelids slightly. "Which one?" "The one to the east. 5 acres of wasteland. It's all sealed. After the flood, can't grow anything. What does a kid like you want with it?" I didn't explain much. I said, 1 move for 10,000, 5 move for 50,000. I'll give you a 5,000 deposit now, and the rest, within 3 months. This price was already above the market rate. Old Wu stared at me for a long time, probably trying to figure out if I had a screw loose. He shoved the pipe back between his teeth, took a couple of puffs, and the smoke curled up lazily in the air between us. "Do you even have 5,000? I placed a stack of cash in front of him. Money earned from the construction site. Each bill smoothed out neatly. A mix of hundreds, tens, and fives. Old Wu counted them, his fingers moving deliberately over the worn notes. Then he stood up, brushed the dust off his pants, and said flatly, "Deal." Chapter 3. 2 months passed. I went to school, during the day, headed to the construction site, after class, and came back at night to huddle over the fold-up bed in the storage room doing homework. The money was piling up, but not fast enough. Luckily, I knew another way. Midterm exams rolled around, and I scored first in the entire grade. It wasn't hard. 10 years from now, I'd already mastered every single test point on these papers. The knowledge from 3 years of high school was nothing more than a dictation exercise for me. The day the results came out, my homeroom teacher made a special call to the house. My mom answered. She hung up holding the receiver for a few seconds in stunned silence, then turned to my dad and said, "She had got first place." My dad grunted, not even looking up, as he skewered ribs for Chinu Jinhua. "Did you hear me first in the whole grade?" I heard. "Tell him to keep studying hard. Don't get cocky." With his chopsticks, he picked up a piece of rib and placed it into Chinya's bowl. "Shall you eat more? You're growing." Chinya grinned, taking the rib, and even waving his chopsticks at me, his mouth full of meat, as he mumbled, "Yo, you're awesome." I held my bowl, and it was plain white rice, and half a scoop of yesterday's leftovers. I chewed the rice and swallowed. Each grain was distinct, scratching my throat. In my past life, I never heard any praise, because, after I became paralyzed, I never had the chance to return to school. My dad had said, "It's hard enough supporting one student. You in a wheelchair at school would be inconvenient. Don't go. Stay home." One student. He meant Chinyu. The education fund Grandma left me, 38,000 yuan, was spent down to the last cent, all on Chinyu's tutoring classes and high school selection fees. The year Grandma passed away, she held my hand and said, "Cheyenne, I saved this money for 8 years. It's for your college tuition. The passbook is with your dad, and it has your name on it." The passbook did have my name on it, but money doesn't recognize names. That night, I waited until everyone was asleep. The living room lights were off. Chinyu was snoring in my room, and my parents' bedroom door was shut tight. I crouched by the storage room door, pressing my ear against the wall of my dad's bedroom. Silence. 12:40 a.m. I gently pushed open the bedroom door, crouched down, and pulled out the passbook from the bottom drawer of the nightstand. A red plastic cover, old and worn, the corners frayed. I opened it. Account holder Zhao Yan balance 38,000. In my past life, this money was taken while I was in a coma in the hospital. My dad used my ID to withdraw it, claiming it was for medical expenses. But in reality, the medical bills were covered by the cooperative medical system. That 38,000 went straight into the account of Chinu's tutoring institution. I was lying in the hospital bed, knowing nothing. By the time I found out, the passbook was empty. 8 years of my grandma's savings. I closed the passbook and slipped it into my pocket. The next morning at 6 o'clock, the credit union had just opened. I stood at the counter with my ID and the passbook. Withdraw 38,000. All of it. The teller flipped through the passbook, checked my ID, and didn't ask any more questions. 16 years old. Personal account. Normal. Withdrawal. The money was packed in a brown paper bag and stuffed into the deepest layer of my backpack. I went to school. When I came back in the afternoon, my dad was blocking the yard entrance. His face was dark, his lips pressed white. In his hand, he clutched the empty passbook. He must have discovered it sometime. Probably when he wanted to withdraw money. "Where's the money?" His voice was soft, but his Adam's apple bobbed as if he was holding something back. I lifted the strap of my backpack higher on my shoulder. "I withdrew it." "What did you say?" "I withdrew it. That money was left to me by Grandma. The passbook has my name on it." My dad froze for 2 seconds. Then he laughed. It wasn't a real laugh. It was a sneer, the corners of his mouth pulling down. "Your name. Did you earn that money? If your grandma knew you were so selfish, if Grandma knew you were taking the money she left for my college tuition to pay for Chinu's tutoring fees." I looked him straight in the eyes. What would she say? The yard fell silent. My dad's chest heaved twice. The passbook in his hand was crumpled into wrinkles. He raised his hand. I saw his palm come up, the wind brushing through the stray hairs on my forehead. But this time I didn't lower my head. I stared directly at him. His hand stopped in midair. Maybe it was because of my gaze, or maybe because Aunt One's tricycle was parked at the yard entrance, and she happened to be passing by. He lowered his hand, turned around, and went inside, slamming the door behind him. The door friend shook, and a piece of plaster fell from above. I stood in the yard, hearing my mom's voice inside. "Lo," coaxing, the words unclear. Then my dad's voice loud. "He's got wings now. Is there even a place for him in this family anymore?" I crouched down, unzipped my backpack. The brown paper bag was still there of 38,000, plus the 21,000 I'd earned from working. Total 59,000. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a number in my notes. Old Wu's landline chapter 4 and Anima Old Wu's 5 mo of land were transferred into my name. The contract was drafted at the town's legal service center. The red stamp firmly pressed Old Wu signed and sealed. With a chuckle. "Kid, what are you going to do with that muddy patch?" "Grow lotus," I said. "Raise fish." And he believed me. Then I did nothing. The land. Just Leo. Half a year later. Spring. The Planning Bureau's red letter document was posted on the town government's bulletin board. People passing by glanced at it and moved on, no one paying attention. I stood in front of the bulletin board and read every single word 3 times. Chapter 5. Within 3 days, the news of the name change on the property deed had spread through the entire street. That's how small towns are. Everyone knows what's cooking on your stove. Before dinner, the murmurs were like flies buzzing, droning everywhere. Zhao Zhang was yun geste son. Where'd he get a pile of money? Transferred his dad's house into his own name. Good, good, good. Wings are hard now, starting to leech off the old folks. His dad waded through floodwaters in the dead of night to save people. And he locked himself in. Wouldn't come out. Now he's snatching the house. Raising a kid like that all for nothing. No one knew about the 5-move land. No one knew about Chindashin trying to mortgage the house to buy a fake spot. They only saw a 17-year-old son transferring his dad's house into his own name. My dad stood at the yard gate, cigarette dangling from his lips. To anyone who came to persuade him, he'd say, just one thing, this rebellious son, I can't control him anymore. After saying that, he'd blow out a puff of smoke, eyes not looking at me. Chinu, on the other hand, had a good attitude. He strolled out of his room holding a bowl of instant noodles, plopped down onto the yard steps, stirred it with chopsticks, slurped a mouthful, then shot me a wink. Joe, I heard you got rich. Take me out for a nice meal sometime. Ha! He was still wearing my hoodie. The cuffs were frayed, the collar hung loose, and sagging against his collarbone. I stared at that hoodie in my past life. After I gave him my last wearable piece of clothing, I spent winter curled up in the corner of the living room, covered by a blanket my mom had sewn in a hurry from curtains. It fits you well, I said. Of course it does, he laughed, not holding back as he kept slurping the noodles. I knew that laugh too well. In my past life, he used that same laugh to take my phone, my room, my savings, and my parents from me. This life, go ahead, and laugh. Laugh for a few more days. What really made me decide to leave was a night 3 days later. I came back late, overtime at the construction site. When I pushed open the yard gate, the living room light was on, voices leaking through the half-open window. My mom's voice. Don't be like this. Genwa, Shia-in is your own son. 2. My dad's voice. My own son. Does he see me as a father in his eyes? When he locked the door, did he think about me? When he snatched the house, did he think about me? He's not snatching. Don't he defend him? How am I supposed to explain this to China Xing? That guy has only one son. I promised him something, and now it's all ruined. Where am I supposed to put my face? Then my dad spoke again, his voice lower like he casually dropped a sentence. Thank goodness Xiu is sensible. If it were him, this family would have fallen apart long ago. Shou is sensible. Xinu is sensible. A parasite who took over my room, stole my savings, wore my clothes, ate my food. Sensible. I stood outside the window, my hand gripping the strap of my backpack, my knuckles digging into the fabric of the strap. In my past life, I'd heard that sentence. 2. Heard it for 10 years, except in that life. When I heard it, I was sitting in a wheelchair, unable to move an inch, and I could only bury my head in my knees. No, I couldn't even feel my knees. The next day, I didn't go to school. I rode a borrowed electric scooter to the county town. The first installment from the 5 mo of land had already arrived. 180,000 yuan. This was the installment payment I negotiated. With Buin Real Estate, 30% down payment. First, the balance settled. Within 3 months. Total price, 620,000 yuan. With 180,000 in hand. I did 2 things. First, I rented a 1-bedroom apartment in the county town's Qingwen district for 100 yuan a month. Second, I went to the supermarket and bought a new quilt, a rice cooker, and a bag of rice. I got home in the afternoon, the sun slanting westward. Chinu sneakers hung, drying on the worn clothesline in the yard. I went into the storage room and packed everything into a nylon woven bag. Not much. A few clothes, a stack of textbooks, my grandmother's portrait, a 4 inches black and white photo, pressed under the bottom of the textbooks. The corners curled. I wrapped the portrait in a plastic bag and placed it on top of the woven bag. As I hoisted the woven bag onto my shoulder, my mom came out of the kitchen. She was still holding a plate of food. When she saw me carrying the bag out, the plate nearly slipped from her hands. "Xiaoyan, what are you doing?" "Moving out. Moving. Moving." "Where?" I placed the woven bag onto the back of the electric scooter and tied it down with rope. She chased me to the yard gate, wiping her hands on her apron over and over, but the oil still wouldn't come off. "Mom." I turned to look at her. Her eyes were red, her lips were pressed tight, her chin trembling. "This family has no place for me. You know that." When I said those words, my voice was very flat, but my hand clenched in my pocket, my nails digging into my flesh. She opened her mouth to say something. Behind her came my dad's voice. "Then go." He stood at the doorway of the main hall, arms crossed over his chest, his shoulder leaning against the doorframe. "Once you leave, don't come back." Every word was spoken clearly. I looked at him. He stared at the sun beyond the yard wall. Neither of us looked at the other. I turned around and swung my leg over the electric scooter the moment my foot pressed down on the pedal. My mom called up from behind. "Xiaoyan." My foot hovered for half a second. I didn't look back. I twisted the throttle all the way, and the electric scooter hummed as it drove into the alley. In the rearview mirror, my mom stood at the yard gate, the hand holding the plate hanging down. The plate still there, soup dripping from between her fingers, drop by drop onto the ground. My dad never moved, arms crossed over his chest like a cast iron stake. The electric scooter drove out of the alley entrance and onto the main road. Wind rushed into my collar. Cold. In my past life, the way I left this family was being pushed out. The wheelchair's wheels caught on the threshold for a moment, and my dad, annoyed by the obstruction, had Chinu pushed me into the corner of the living room. From that night on, my range of activity was the 30 centimeters between the coffee table and the wall of this life. I left on my own, riding a scooter, feeling the wind, both legs planted firmly on the pedals, solid and real. Chapter 6. 2 years passed quickly. I never went back to that alley. After the final payment for the land came through, I didn't squander it. 620,000 yuan minus the initial investment, and living expenses for the rental left me with 540,000. Just after the Spring Festival of 2016, I met someone at a tea house in the county town Xiaoan, 53 years old, a local of Yujin County. He started out in the building materials business, then switched to real estate brokerage. With 2 storefronts in the county town, the name I saw it in the news in my last life in 2019. When the Eugene New District development kicked off, Jian had already laid his hands on over 30 shop fronts ahead of the curve, and he became the county's richest man overnight. In this life, he was still just a mid-tier middleman. I invited him for tea. He glanced at me, an 18-year-old kid in a faded white shirt, the cheapest haircut money could buy, with a face that held a calm far beyond his ears. He didn't say a word. He sat down. I unzipped my backpack and slid a hand-drawn map of the East Bank's commercial properties across the table. "Mr. Xiao, the second phase of demolition on the East Bank of Yug's new district will kick off next March. These 12 shopfront locations. Nobody wants them now. The unit price won't exceed 3,000 per square meter once the second phase relocation notice comes out. Expect at least a 5-fold increase." His hand holding the teacup froze. He stared at me for half a minute. "How do you know about the second phase?" "The Planning Bureau's documents haven't been released yet. You've been in this business long enough to know how to read the signs." I pointed at a few marked spots on the map. Bune's layout for the East Bank's first phase pushed south along the river. The only direction for the second phase is the bridge head area. The county approved the road renovation budget for the bridge head last year, and construction starts in March. Once the roads are done, the shops go up, and the demolition follows naturally. Back in my last life, I'd seen this information scrolling on my phone while stuck in a wheelchair. Back then, I just cited the numbers. Xiaoan set his teacup down. "You want me to put up the money?" "A partnership. I provide the intel and judgment. You provide the capital and channels. Profits split 60/40. You take 60. I take 40. He laughed, revealing tea-stained teeth. Kid, what if you're wrong? Then consider it a tea date you paid for. But if I'm not wrong? I folded the map carefully, tucked it back into my backpack. In 3 months. You'll remember today. He stared at me for another half-minute. Then he picked up his tea and drained the cup. Deal. March came. The road renovation began. May arrived. The second phase demolition notice was released. The 12 shop fronts John had snapped up at an average of 2.800 per square meter near the bridgehead. Their appraisal price shot straight to 16,000 net profit over 4 million. I took home 1.6 million. I was 18 that day. Xiaoan took me out to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the county. He poured a glass of liquor and slid it in front of me, then downed his own first. Xiao, how many years have you been in this line? 2 years. 2 years. He tapped the table with his finger. I've been at it for 20, and I can't see as clearly as you. And 2, that brain of yours doesn't look like it came from books. I picked up the glass, took a sip, and said nothing. The 10 years I spent in a wheelchair in my last life besides despair. The only thing they left me was endless time. With enough time, you can see through anything: market trends, human nature, and the rules that keep this society running. Work with me, Xiaoan said. I'll give you the title of project manager. No strings attached. You judge the projects yourself. I'll provide the capital. I nodded. That same month, I got a call from my mother. Her voice was tiny, like she was afraid someone might overhear. Xia, are you doing okay? I'm Mifine. Your father? He and Uncle Chin went into business together. I already knew he'd done the same deal in my last life. Chandushing had dragged my father into investing in a building materials transfer station, claiming he knew the procurement manager at Buin Real Estate and could secure a long-term supply contract. In reality, that procurement manager was Chandushing's gambling buddy. The contract was fake. They'd sunk 150,000 into the transfer station. It ran for 3 months, without landing a single order. In the 4th month, Shannon cleaned out the remaining 80,000 from the account and vanished. My father went looking for him, with a stack of receipts, only to find Shindisham's family had moved. His phone was off, and an iron lock hung on his door. In my last life, all this happened in early 2017. In this life, I'd bought a house 6 months early, cutting off my father's ability to mortgage it. He couldn't scrape together 150,000, only 70,000, but he still invested. Plus, Chinu had borrowed another 20,000 in my father's name. I knew that money would go down the drain. I didn't stop it. Not because I couldn't. One call to Xiao Weiman, and he could use his industry connections to expose Jean Dishing's fake contract. I could have stopped it, but that was his choice. He chose Chin Dashing. He chose Chinu. He didn't choose me. Right. Before I hung up, my mother said, if you have time, come back and see your father. He's lost weight. I said, okay. After I hung up, I didn't open the navigation app to find the route home. I opened another file, the preliminary planning draft for the 3rd phase of Yujin New. Xiao Weiman was waiting for my analysis report. I typed a line, predicted main area for phase 3, an industrial park sector. Then I saved, shut down the computer, went asleep. The moon outside the window was very white. It streamed in, landing on the blanket in a perfect square of light. In my last life, the moon had been beside my wheelchair too, but it came through a dirty window in the corner of the living room, a narrow strip that barely reached the wheel. I turned over, putting the moon behind me. Chapter 7. 1 week before the Spring Festival of 2017, I was at John's company reviewing an evaluation report on the Nan, an area, when my phone rang. Caller ID. Mom. When I answered, she was crying. Not the loud, wailing kind. It was the kind where she sucked in air and pushed out words in broken bursts like someone drowning, spitting out water, and gasps. Xian, your father's in trouble. What happened? Chindushing ran. The money's gone. Your father's drowning in debt. The debt collectors came to the house, kicked the door in. I closed the report. Mom, where are you now? At home. Your father's locked himself in his room. And won't come out. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone. I'm coming to get you. On the drive back. I pieced the timeline together. It was 2 months earlier than in my last life. Back then, Chindishing hadn't run until after the new year. This time, it was probably because there was less money. My father had only invested 90,000, not the 150,000 from before. Dishing figured it wasn't worth as well, and bolted early. As I drove into the alley, I spotted 2 men crouching outside the gate of my family's house. I pulled the car to a stop at the mouth of the alley, not driving straight in. First, I made a call, a number I'd saved for a long time, but never dialed. Xiaoman helped me look up a guy named Qinding. And Yu Zhang, he's in building materials, recently disappeared, with a pile of cash. I'll send you his ID number and phone. Also, check any debt disputes under his name. Got it? Shouted and asked questions. I hung up and walked into the alley. 2 debt collectors straightened up. When they saw me, one was big and broad-shouldered, a cigarette dangling from his mouth. A ring of butts on the ground around him. Who the hell are you? Thao Yen. This is my house. I pulled up a photo of the property deed on my phone and held it in front of his face. Whatever Zhou Zhenhua owes you has nothing to do with this house. The house is mine. You want to find him? Fine. But don't touch my stuff. One of them twisted his mouth, about to say something. The other grabbed his arm. Gave me a once-over. Shirt. Watch. Car keys. Fine. Your house. We don't touch it. But Joan was dead. 370000 will be back. Find him yourself. I pushed open the courtyard gate and went inside. The house was pitch black. The living room bulb was busted. Glass had swept into a corner. The coffee table was overturned. Invoices and IU scattered across the floor. My mom's voice came from the bedroom. Cheyenne. Mom. I'm here. When she came out, I almost didn't recognize her. 6 months gone, and half her hair had turned white. Not an even salt and pepper, but a stark patch inked from her forehead, shocking against the rest. Her cheeks were hollow. Her eye sockets ringed in deep black. When she saw me, her lips trembled twice. She said nothing, just reached out and grabbed my sleeve. Her nails dug into the fabric. The strength in her grip was startling. Where's Dad? She tilted her head toward the inner room. I knocked on the master bedroom door. No answer. Dad. It's me. Silence. A long one. Then the lock clicked. The door cracked open. He sat on the edge of the bed, lightly through a hole in the curtain, falling only on his shoes. A pair of black cloth shoes, the right one's lace loose, dragging on the floor. He'd lost weight. Not, just looked thinner. His shirt collar hung empty around his neck, and you could count every bone in his collarbone with your fingers. He lifted his head. His eyes were red, not like he'd just been crying, but like he hadn't slept in 3 days. He looked at me. His lips moved, but nothing came out. I went in and closed the door from my pocket. I pulled out a USB drive. I found the old laptop by the bed. The screen was cracked in one corner, and it worked for half a minute. Before booting up, the drive had only 4 files. First, a photo of Chindishing, with that Boone procurement manager, dated 2015, taken outside a casino. Xiao Weimin got it for me through his channels. Second, a scanned copy of that so-called long-term supply contract. The company's seal from Bo Yuan Properties was fake. Zio had their legal team verify it. It wasn't in their contract system. Third, loan records from 3 online lending platforms in town, all registered under my dad's identity by Chinu. Total 5,204. A recording from 2014. I recorded it outside the storage room 3 years ago. He's got wings now. Does this family even have room for him anymore? At least Show is sensible. If it were him, this family would have fallen apart long ago. My dad's voice came through the laptop speakers, echoing in the dim bedroom. He stared at the screen. His face shifted layer by layer. First confusion, because he probably didn't remember saying those words. Then recognition. The voice was too familiar. It was his own. No denying it. Finally, something slow cracking from the inside. His mouth pulled down. The flesh under his chin quivered. His throat bobbed in a loud swallow. The son you raised for 10 years. I shut the laptop. Now. When you need help the most. Where is he? He didn't answer. Where's Chindishing? Still no answer. His hands rested on his knees. His fingers clenched. Knuckles turning white. Then released. Then clenched again. I stood in front of him, looking down at the top of his head. His hair was white, too. Whiter than my mom's. Thinned out, scalp showing through, gleaming in the light from the curtain. If this were my past life, if I were in that wheelchair now, would my heart soften? Dad. 370000. I can pay it off for you. He jerked his head up. But there's one condition. What condition? The 52,000 Chin you borrowed using your ID. You reported to the police yourself. From today on, no one from the Chin family steps foot in this house again. His lips opened and closed twice. No sound came out. I didn't wait for him to speak. I turned, pushed open the door, and walked into the living room. My mom stood in the middle of the room, still clutching air. My sleeve was long gone from her grip. Mom, come. With me. Her gaze slipped past my shoulder toward the bedroom. Your father. He'll come find you. When he figures it out. I picked up her bag from the sofa. Let's go. I've got your room ready at my place. Footsteps sounded behind me. My dad stood at the bedroom door. He opened his mouth. You're just leaving. You see your father like this. And you don't care. I stopped, turned halfway, looking back at him. He stood at the end of the hallway. The light didn't reach there. He was swallowed in shadow, only his eyes visible, wet, and shining. I hadn't planned to say this, but standing in that hallway, watching his shadow blur, with the one from the hospital room in my past life, the words came out on their own. That day of the flood, the water was up to my chest. You carried Chinu on your back and walked out. I called out to you from behind. Do you know how many times you turned around? He didn't answer. I turned, pulled my mom out the door. Didn't look back once. Chapter 8. After my mom moved in, she barely spoke. She woke up early every morning to cook, setting the bowls and chopsticks neatly on the table, waiting for me. When I left for work, she stood at the door, watching me go. On the living room table sat a framed family photo taken when I was 5 years old at a photography studio. My father held me in his arms. My mother stood beside him, and I was grinning so wide my mouth stretched all the way to my ears. She had brought that photo out of the old house wrapped in an old handkerchief tucked into the inner pocket of her clothes to her heart. She never asked me what I had shown my father that day in the bedroom. I never said the only question she ever asked me on her own. Your father, has he called you? No. She stopped asking, lowered her head, peeling garlic in her hands. The garlic skins wedged into her fingernails. In the summer of 2017, a phone call shattered all the calm. It wasn't from my father. It was from the police station. Are you the family member of Zhao Jianghua? I'm his son. Your father is now at EU Jiangtown Central Health Center. His injuries aren't too severe, but a family member needs to come. Who hit him? Chinu. My hands tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles widening. By the time I arrived at the health center, the emergency room light was still on. I pushed the door open. The smell of disinfectant stung my nose. My father lay on the hospital bed. His left eye was swollen completely shut. A dark bruise like a bowl of ink had been poured into it. His lips were cracked. A scab of dried blood crusted on his chin. His right hand was wrapped in bandages, hanging in front of his chest. He turned his head and saw me. Didn't say a word, just shifted his gaze away, staring at the ceiling. The attending doctor stopped me, lowering his voice. One rib cracked, orbital bone fractured. The hand hurted himself, falling probably, while running. I asked, where's Chinu? Taken by the police. Heard he came asking for money. Your father wouldn't give it, so he started hitting him. Used a chair leg. A chair leg. I closed my eyes. In my past life, Chinu had never laid a hand on my father. Because in that life, I was there. My crippled body was the best moral shield for the Chin family. As long as I sat in that wheelchair, the Zhou family would always owe the Chens, and Chinu would forever be the son of the benefactor. My father could always justify everything. With I saved a life. This life I left. The moral shield was gone. Chinu wanted money. His gambling debts had piled up. The loan shark's interest compounding. already rolling into tens of thousands. The house under my father's name had been transferred to mine, so Chinu couldn't touch it. He could only squeeze the last bit of blood from my father. My father didn't give it, not because he had finally woken up, but because he truly had nothing left. Not a single cent. I stood by the hospital bed. He still stared at the ceiling. His jaw clenched tight. His throat moved once. I didn't know what he was thinking. Maybe why did he come? Maybe don't let him see me like this. Maybe nothing at all. I placed a card on the bedside table. A rural commercial bank savings card, with 10,000 yuan inside. I didn't say a word. Set the card down. When I stepped into the hallway, I paused for a moment. I braced my hand against the wall. Lowered my head. The fluorescent light from the corridor shone on my feet. A white so bright it burned. I remember my past life. Those years. The days spent in a wheelchair. One winter, I had a high fever for 3 days. My mother was making dumplings for Tinu. I was so hungry my stomach cramped. Curled up in a blanket, I called out, "Mom." She brought a bowl of noodles over, but my father stood behind her and said, "It's not that serious. Don't be dramatic." That bowl of noodles later went cold, because Chinu said he wanted noodles, too. My mother took that bowl away, cooked a new one, and gave it to Chinu first. When she brought another bowl over, the noodles had turned to mush. I ate them. I didn't say a word. The wall in the hallway was cold. I let go of my hand, straightened up, and walked out. Chapter 9. Autumn 2017. Chinu was charged with intentional injury. The trial was held in the county courthouse. It was raining that day. Not heavily, just a fine drizzle. The sky a murky gray like a damp rag smeared overhead. I sat in the last row of the gallery. My father sat in the second row. His right eye had already healed, leaving a scar stretching from his brow bone down to the corner of his eye. The scar was the color of new flesh, a pale pink white, glaringly conspicuous in the dim light. He didn't look at me from the moment he entered, and sat down. His gaze was fixed on the judge's bench ahead. When Chinu was brought in, he wore the prison uniform. His head shaved, his face gaunt, but his eyes were still the same, bright, carrying that slickness unique to someone spoiled since childhood. The judge read the indictment and asked Chinu if he had anything to state. Chinu lowered his head first. Then he started to cry, a very skilled cry, intermittent, aggrieved, a whimpering sound from his throat. "Your Honor, I didn't mean to. I was just too desperate. I grew up in the Joe family. Uncle Joe is like a real father to me. I borrowed money from outside and couldn't pay it back. I was scared. So I went to Uncle Joe for help." Whispers started in the front rows. Something like, "The kid is pitiful. Too young and reckless." I watched him cry. In my past life, he cried like this, too. Every time he caused trouble, he cried. And every time he cried, my father softened. But this time was different, because what he said next, he probably didn't realize what effect it would have. The judge asked, "Do you admit to the fact that you assaulted the victim?" Zhao Jiang, with China's crying, stopped for a moment. He lifted his head, his reed-and eyes sweeping across the gallery, sweeping over my father. Then a very complex expression surged onto his face. Not grievance anymore. It was hatred. Hatred that had been building up for a long time, finally finding an outlet. "I hit him." China's voice changed. Herrero like sandpaper scraping against iron. "I hit him. So what?" The courtroom fell silent. "What is he anyway?" China's lips trembled, but his voice grew louder. Back in the flood, he carried me on his shoulders and ran. The whole village called him a hero. But why did he carry me? Didn't he just want to be the good guy? Didn't he just want the whole village to praise him? His face, his dignity. He took me in off the streets and raised me for 10 years. But did he actually raise me? He didn't even take care of his own son. His own son was in a wheelchair. No, wait. His own son was driven away by him. He used his son's money to support me, gave me his son's room to live in, and then turned around and said to me, "Show, you're just like my own son." Bullshit. His voice split the courtroom apart. "I'm not his son. I never was. I'm just a tool he used to prove he's a good person. He never treated me like a person. And he never treated his own son like one either. The baifs moved forward. Chinu's shoulders were pinned down. But he kept struggling. The tendons on his neck, standing out one by one. Purple-blue. He turned toward where my father sat, his final roar ripping through the air. You destroyed your son's entire life. Do you even know that? Elohim buzzed through the courtroom. I didn't look at Chinu. I looked at the back of my father's head. His neck was stiff. His shoulders hunched once. Then again, like someone was driving nails into his spine. One hammer blow at a time. He never turned around for the entire trial. He never turned around again. When the verdict came down, Chinu was sentenced to 1 year and 8 months. The gavel fell. The crowd dispersed. As I walked out of the courthouse, the rain had gotten heavier. The driver had pulled the car up to the bottom of the steps, holding an umbrella waiting for me that Karjaya women gave me at the beginning of the year. Nothing too fancy. But in this county town, it was already an eyesore. I was about to get in footsteps behind me. Slow. Heavy. Like each step was sinking deeper into mud. Shioyan. My hand rested on the car door handle. I didn't you he called again. His voice was lighter than the rain. But every word trembled, squeezed up from the last bit of air left in his throat. I turned around. He stood on the courthouse steps. The rain soaked him. His hair plastered to his forehead exactly like it had been during the flood 3 years ago. His shirt was drenched, clinging to his shoulder blades, showing the ridges of his spine, so thin you could count them one by one. The scar next to his right eye gleamed wet in the rain. He stood there staring at me. His lips moved 3 times. The first 2 times nothing came out. The third time his knees buckled. First the right knee, then the left. He dropped onto the rain-soaked cement steps of the courthouse. A dull thud, kneecap against concrete behind me. The driver's umbrella tilted. Dad was wrong. His voice was shattered, each word forced out one by one. Zen, and breath tangled between them. Dad is sorry to you. Cheyenne, Dad is sorry to you. His shoulders caved in. His whole body collapsing like all the bones had been pulled out, shrinking into a crumpled heap. His hands pressed against the ground, fingertips wide in the puddles. I stood at the bottom of the steps, looking up at him. Rain fell on my face, ran down my cheekbones, trickled into my collar. 3 years ago on that flood night, he stood on the rooftop looking down at me. Now the roles were reversed. I walked up the steps, one by one, the soles of my shoes splashing in the pulled water, making tiny scattered sounds. I stopped in front of him. I crouched down. His face was very close to mine. I saw the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes, every single one twice as deep as 3 years ago. I saw the white hair at his temples, not just a strand or two, but a whole patch. I saw his eyes, no evasión, no eboidens, red to the core, filled with water. I opened my mouth. My voice was very soft, but every word I counted in my heart. That night, the water was up to my chest. His breath stopped. You carried Chinu out. I followed behind you. The current was too fast. I couldn't stand. I called out to you. His mouth fell open. The corners of his lips pulled downward, a blue vein bulging from the side of his neck. I counted 17 times in total. A very soft, very thin sound came from his throat. Not a cry, but something breaking inside. You didn't answer even once. His body pitched forward, his forehead almost touching my knee. His hand brushed against the leather of my shoe. The movement was light, like he wanted to grab hold of something, but didn't dare to squeeze. His fingernails scraped across the shoe surface, making a sound almost too faint to hear. I looked at his hand. In my past life, this hand had slapped my face by the hospital bed next to the wheelchair. And also, the same hand, when I was 6 years old, carried me on his shoulders, walking me down the entire street. I pulled a folded umbrella from my pocket. I raised it over his head. Rain exploded against the fabric, powdering down. He lifted his head. I let go. The umbrella handle rested against his shoulder steady. Then I stood up. I walked down the steps. I reached the car, pulled open the door, and got in. The engine started in the rear-view mirror. He was still kneeling there, an umbrella propped on his shoulder like a tree, whose trunk had been cut down, leaving only a single branch. The rain grew heavier. I didn't tell the driver to stop. Chapter 10. After Chinyu was sent to prison, Chinishing showed up out of nowhere, with his wife, They came to hear the verdict in court, the day the judgment was announced. Shanding's wife wailed for 10 minutes in front of the courthouse, cursing the Joe family, cursing the judge, cursing heaven and earth. Chandashing himself didn't say much. He stood beside his wife, his eyes darting toward the gallery a couple of times, probably looking for my father. He didn't find him. My father didn't show up. Later, I heard Chandashing tried to come find my father to ask for money. He thought his own son went to jail because of the Joe family. If Joe Jang and Mo had paid me back sooner, Xiaoyu wouldn't have ended up like this. He couldn't find my father. My father had changed his phone number, moved out of his old place. In the end, Shandishan tracked me down at my company. The front desk stopped him. He yelled in the lobby for half an hour, saying he was Joan's uncle, and demanded to see me. Security asked him to leave 3 times. He refused to go. I had the front desk pass along a single message. Tell him his son got 1 year and 8 months. The case regarding the misappropriated funds under his own name has already been filed with the police. If he doesn't leave now, I'll call the station to come pick him up. The lobby went silent. 3 minutes later, the front desk clerk came back and said, "He's gone." I let out a low grunt and went back to scanning the reports. After that incident, no one from the Chin family ever showed up again. Before the Spring Festival, I bought a 2-bedroom, 1 living room apartment in the county town. It wasn't big, but it faced south. The balcony overlooked a grove of ginkgo trees. In winter, the leaves had all fallen, and the bare branches painted a tangle of black lines across the sky. On moving day, my mother walked through every room. Her hands brushed over the door frames, the window sills, the kitchen counter, as if she were measuring something. When she reached the master bedroom window, she stood there for a long time. She didn't turn around. "Your father, can you manage living alone?" I rented a place for him next to the old house. I set down the last box in the living room. The rent is paid for a year. Water, electricity, gas, all on my account. She turned her head to look at me. Her eyes were red, but no tears fell. Years of crying had probably dried them up. Her eyes were just a ring of red, parched. She opened her mouth. I thought she was going to say thank you, or that I was a good child. What she said was, "He's not a bad person." Her voice was very, very small. I crouched down to open the box, my fingers peeling the tape from the seal slowly. I know he wasn't a bad person. He just gave all his kindness to others and left all his debts to his own son. On the 29th day of the lunar year, I drove past the old alley. I hadn't meant to go there. I was coming back from a construction site in the south, and taking the old road was 7 minutes faster than the new one. As the car passed the alley entrance, I glanced. Inside, everything had changed. Most of the old houses, rotted by the flood, had been torn down and rebuilt. Cement buildings, walls tiled in ceramic, aluminum alloy windows. Only the house at the far end of the alley remained the same. Gray brick walls, a wooden door, several missing roof tiles held down by sheets of plastic. That was my home. No, that was the old house next to the rental room, where my father lived. The rental was on the 2nd floor, accessed by an iron staircase on the side. I pulled the car over at the alley entrance. I didn't turn off the engine. I sat there for a while. A single drop of water appeared on the windshield. I couldn't tell if it was rain or dew. It slid slowly down the glass, tracing a winding path, and stopped right at the wiper blade. In my past life, I had seen this alley 10,000 times from a wheelchair back then. The angle was from the bottom up. The wheelchair seat was low, and my line of sight was level, with the drainage ditch full of rotten vegetable leaves and dirty water. Now, sitting in the driver's seat, looking out through the car window, the alley seemed smaller. So small it was unbelievable. The alley I once thought I could never escape. It took only 10 seconds to drive to its end. I pulled open the car door. I stepped into the alley. My shoes landed on the blue stone slabs, each step echoing. I stopped in front of the old house. The courtyard gate was slightly ajar. From inside came a faint sound, very soft, like something being placed on a table. I didn't push the door open. I peered through the gap in the gate. A cloth line was strung across the yard. On it hung a shirt washed so many times it had turned a faded gray. The color frayed, and fuzzy. The main room's door was open. The light was on yellow, with 2 fuses, only illuminating the table. My father sat at the table. In front of him was a meal, a bowl of white rice, a dish of pickled vegetables, and instant noodles soaking in an enamel bowl. He wasn't eating. He was looking at a photograph, a 4 inches photo laminated, but the corners were still curled. I recognized that photo. It was a family portrait taken when I was 5 years old. He held the edge of the photo, with those 2 rough, calloused fingers, his thumb pressing lightly against the surface as if afraid of tearing the paper. His lips were moving. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but I saw the shape of his lips, 2 syllables repeatedly, silently, opening and closing. No one answered him in the room. Only the steam from the instant noodles rose upward, dispersing into a white mist above his head. I stood outside the gate for a long time, so long that the soles of my shoes were caked with the wet mud from the alley. Then I took a step back. I walked out of the alley. When I reached the car, I stopped. I looked down at my own 2 feet. My leather shoes were stained with mud, and the cuffs of my pants were wet all around. 2 legs, whole and complete, able to walk, able to run, able to squat down, able to stand up. In my past life, I had lost them along with every day, every second, every moment I should have faced standing up in those 10 years in this life. I took them all back. I opened the car door. I sat down. I buckled my seatbelt. My hands rested on the steering wheel, but I didn't start the engine right away. In the rearview mirror, the alley was quiet. The twilight light fell into it, spreading an orange-red layer over the blue stone slabs. From far away, there was the sound of firecrackers, someone setting off New Year's fireworks early. I turned the key. The engine started. I drove past the alley entrance. I drove onto the main road. In the rearview mirror, the alley grew narrower and narrower, smaller and smaller, until it shrank into a single point. Then it disappeared. The road ahead was wide. I pressed down on the accelerator.